If you're somebody that loves the teachings of people like Alan Watts, Ram Dass, and others, I invite you to consider something, that the cause of humanity continues to march into the future, that those teachers are the shoulders in which we stand on today, and there is a scientific and neurological basis that correlates to the awakening experience, the enlightenment experience, the Satari, the Kundalini, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, these teachings never made it into academia. That the whole world of psychology stands in stark contrast to the extraordinary world of meditative enlightenment and transformation, a world that produces instantaneous and spontaneous revelation level breakthroughs into a completely different state of consciousness. That is not the result of philosophy or belief. In fact, it's not even something that you can obtain if you become attached to the experience of it, because that's something your ego wants, is to fix and change itself. And that suspends you neurologically within the boundaries of ego. Your desire to understand those teachings is going to be the reason that you never will attain anything that they're referencing. If there's one thing that you should know when listening to people describe the experience of enlightenment, is that the description is no different than reading a website for, a vacation or a timeshare. And so when you're listening to Alan Watts, consider yourself listening to a timeshare salesperson or like somebody that's a travel agent, that they're just describing something. But the description is not the something. It's like studying the philosophies of people is just like getting a Gordon Ramsay cookbook, but never actually cooking yourself. So if you're going to watch, the Food Network and think that that's what you're going to have for dinner, that's the same thing. So trying to digest and assimilate and understand the philosophies and the teachings of the Eckhart Tolles and the Power of Now is the best way to guarantee you'll never attain those experiences. Unfortunately, the path is not one of cognitive understanding, because the analytical mind is only maintained as a result of this lack of present moment consciousness. That the process through which you're attempting to understand and attain it is the same process that prevents it, because it's literally just when the voice in your head turns off. When there is no thinking. When the thinking is gone and you're just observing the moment, and you recognize in that moment that your consciousness has been set free, and that the formation of reality is seamlessly integrated into the visual experience from an emotional standpoint, even a conscious and cognitive standpoint, that the brain works so fast that you will automatically know what's going on, that there won't be a need to question it or analyze. That analyzing is just part of the dissociation of confusion, which is all related to fear and the fact that you're in one giant fight or flight reaction your whole life. Because if you looked at your whole life, it's nothing but an effort to prove yourself someday. That if you're living into a someday future fantasy where you're more successful, more educated, more informed, more healed than you are today, well, that illusion of someday, that future that you're living into, the carrot that you keep chasing, that you'll sacrifice your life for, that you'll live a stressed out, unfulfilled life chasing your tail, is the very problem. That there is no someday future, there's only now. And people like me pay a heavy penalty to attempt to provide access to other people. That people don't understand what I'm doing with coaching. They have no concept of the fact that there are people whose lives have permanently been altered. And some of those people can comment here. If you're somebody who I coached for free on TikTok just during a live stream, for example, why don't you just talk about the experience? If you're somebody that I coached, I want you to write in this comment or make a response video detailing. Give me a 10-minute video if you can. You see how much content I generate? We got to pay it forward now. Many of you benefited dramatically. You got to pay $75 or in many instances for free or whatever it was, and your whole life is completely transformed as a result of one conversation. Now, the problem is this, is that people go get onto a 747 jet and then they'll write a Yelp review about it. Because I normalize that. You see, we've normalized things that are extraordinary. That if you took somebody from 1890 and you put them onto a jumbo jet and took them into the air, holy moly, right? But you see, when I'm sitting here giving away all this valuable wisdom and information, I've normalized it. That people just come and think it's Coach Nate, and then they have some profound, life-changing breakthrough that was so easy for them to do that now, months later, they're just living their life. And I'm the one getting ravaged by trolls because they're failing to realize that the gift that I have to give was paid for in blood. Mine. But more importantly, it's a continuity of a conversation. I am the direct result or descendant of the Alan Watts, the Warner Earharts, the Eckhart Tolles, the Ram Dasses, the Buddhas, the Jesuses, period. That is the way it works. That the teachings that I have came from transformation. My own transformation started at Landmark and then continued on my own. But you see, I was also born a little different. Now, it wasn't that I was neurologically different. There's a lot of things that they don't understand. The formation of ego has some variability to it. That there are children that have less inhibitions intellectually and cognitively, and it results in higher intelligence, it results in ground-up thinking, it results in significantly higher aptitudes. Most people today can't explain how a cigarette lighter makes a flame or why their engine runs in their car when they turn a key, and they take advantage of all this technology, yet they don't even have a single syllable of contribution to the advancing knowledge that they, capitalize on and navigate within. That for you, it's a miracle that you could even use your cell phone. But when you think about the types of intelligence required to invent a microchip, for example, or to think about electrons, protons, and neutrons as the organizing principles of matter itself, and now subatomic particles. And so in this world of subjective, ego-based, entitled ignorance, you have a lot of misinformation and a lot of stupidity that is very attractive to the small-minded, average intelligent person. That most people don't have enough intelligence. You can take a look at something real quick. This is why we have so much misinformation and conspiracy theory. Because people like your Terrence Howards, grandiose, they can have some intelligence, but their subjective entitlement to think that they could subordinate Einstein and Stephen Hawking without any work is nonsense. You see, but people that have inferiority complexes and people that have very low levels of intelligence or just average people cannot even comprehend the world, of a Stephen Hawking, an Einstein, a Jefferson, a Newton, a Tesla. They can't. And just because somebody's persecuted doesn't mean that they're intelligent. Tesla had a lot of contributions and then he had a lot of flops, and that's just the way it goes. And I've had a lot of ideas and I've had a lot of flops, and that's the way it goes. But the average person cannot hold a candle to what it is that we can create in our mind. And when I say we because I'm very clear the class of people I exist amongst. It's not these types of people that have been around me. That the rest of my life I'm going to have to fight in order to not just have some kind of stupid social relevance in your nonsensical hierarchy, but to reach people with enough intelligence, insight, and creative capacity to actually recognize me. Because that's not going to even happen amongst the highest of educated people, because the highest of educated people are studying the ideas of people like me. I need the people like me, not the pseudo-experts that memorize our ideas and parrot them.